Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with Emeka Nwosu from Amyris. He has headed up e-commerce operations and analytics for some of the world's largest FMCG manufacturers, and now is an e-commerce data analyst for Amyris, helping to drive their success in B2B and D2C e-commerce. He has an amazing story and an amazing journey. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. Welcome to B2B Commerce Corner. Commerce Corner is a sub-series of the E-Commerce Edge podcast discussing all things B2B commerce through the lens of agencies, consultants, merchants, and more. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome Emeka Nwosu to the podcast. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I am great. I'm super excited to be here recording this. I don't think there are enough podcasts dedicated to B2B e-commerce. So it's super exciting to talk to you, just exchange conversations and ideas. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Anybody who has used Shopify for any length of time at all knows just how incredible it is for B2C and D2C merchants. However, it leaves a lot to be desired for B2B merchants and brands. That's where Wholesale Gorilla comes in. Wholesale Gorilla is a Shopify app that adds tons of essential B2B commerce functionality right on top of Shopify. It allows you to run and get started with all of your wholesale functionality that you need to run your B2B and wholesale business online, all within the safety of the Shopify ecosystem. And you can use Wholesale Gorilla with any tier of Shopify plan. You do not need to be using Shopify Plus. We've partnered with Wholesale Gorilla and they are offering 50% off your first paid month when you use the coupon code EDGE. We want to thank them for their support of the podcast and go and check out Wholesale Gorilla today. My pleasure, man. And look, I actually found out about you. I hadn't run across your content before, but I found out that you were going to be speaking at B2B Online in Florida next month. And I was like, hey, I'll just reach out to him. I'll see if he's got some free time. We can have a good catch up. And you're an e-commerce business analyst with Amyris. And so you work absolutely fairly and squarely in that B2B manufacturing e-commerce space. And it's a unique beast. B2B is a totally unique business model within the e-commerce space. It's very different to D2C, B2C. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your content at the conference. I'm going to be doing some recordings at the conference for people that maybe I couldn't get on beforehand. But yeah, maybe tell us how you first started getting into e-commerce in the first place. And then I guess tell us a little bit about maybe just high level, some of the things you want to cover off at B2B Online in Florida.
Yeah, I'll start with what I intend to cover for the B2B Online in Florida. Super excited about the conference. I will be there. I'm also grateful for the opportunity. One of my mentors, Martha Dalton, who is also a guru in e-commerce B2B. I think you should search her out on LinkedIn and definitely, I'm not joking at all, have a conversation with her. She's a guru, as of course she's my mentor. So she linked me up with Ryan, some of the organizers of B2B Online, and we had great discussions. And I will be talking about AI and product data and talking to leading roundtable discussion with some of the major B2B e-commerce players, talking to them about some things that they are doing currently in regards to AI and product data. I work with data a lot. Personally, I have an Etsy store and stuff, and I use a lot of generative AI for my product description, for my product title. And I'm looking forward to just rubbing minds with other e-commerce B2B players and just listening and sharing ideas on some things that you can do with your product data, how you can use generative AI, especially to carve out search engine optimized product description and product titles. So those are some things that I'll be talking about. Super excited to share some of those ideas. And also, more than what I have to share, I am actually more excited to hear what other people are doing and also build connections with other people. The other part of the question is how I got into e-commerce. I'm originally from Nigeria, and my early days in my career, I worked at a company called Konga.com. Konga.com currently is one of the largest players in e-commerce marketplaces in Africa. So I joined them in the early days. This was like 2010. At the time, e-commerce, even around the world, was still growing, but in Africa, it was a lot smaller. And a lot of the processes that we started to scale up with things that I and some of the people that work there literally built from ground up. The operations, product return framework, marketplace, onboarding resellers, onboarding B2B resellers on the platform were some things that we were doing literally from ground up. And after a few years on that role, I got a call from Reckitt. Reckitt is one of those big, fast moving CPG online players. And at that time, I think this was like 2014, 15. I think they have a global mandate to drive growth with e-commerce and everything. And they asked me to come join them to help drive growth in that area. I remember at that time, it was crazy to have CPG, everyday consumer goods products in online spaces. Like, why do you want to do that? And I was really scared to take on that role because I could have done very well with say a fashion product or electronics, fast selling, high average order value, things like that. But with a consumer goods product, you literally have to sell a lot of products for you to get a very high revenue in terms of the target that I had to deliver on. But as I started on that role and I was given some of the targets, things I needed to deliver, and of course I had support of some of the senior leadership. And I really want to shout out to Faraz currently is the North America e-commerce head at Reckitt currently. At the time, and it's really funny to talk about it now because at that time it was scary. This was in 2015. It was scary. We did not have a lot of e-commerce B2B players at that time. A lot of companies were shying away from playing in that space. And even within the company, a lot of people were wondering, why do we have e-commerce that is probably contributing 0.5% to the overall revenue? Why should we support that? But people like Faraz, I just mentioned, that leads e-commerce for North America, for Reckitt currently, he was one of those people that supported me personally, directly with that. So when you have leaders that supported you early on, you have like a soft landing. But what I did as I got some of the mandate on that role was to think out of the box. How can I drive volume, high volume and high revenue quickly? And honestly, one thing that came to my mind was B2B. They would buy in bulk and I would get, rather than a few items from retail customers, I could sell to B2B, buy in bulk and increase my revenue and my AOV and my volume and things like that. And at my prior role, I had already worked with some B2B clients. So I just needed to revamp some of those relationships I had built and get some people to come on or online. Also around that time, Jumia, if you're in e-commerce space, Jumia, they had an IPO or New York Stock Exchange maybe like last year, even though the stock now is down. But they were one of the biggest e-commerce players in Africa at the time. They had something called Jumia J-Force. It's an offline B2B sales team. They go offline, talk to people, get them to come online and replicate. And at that time, Reckitt had a relationship with the Jumia J-Force team. And I was wondering, why can't we do something internally? Because we would pay them commissions and things like that. And that was my first break into B2B e-commerce, right? So I think I've got some like 2 salespeople that actually went to these B2B institutions to talk to them about coming on our platform on different marketplaces, really, to buy products. And some of the ways I was pitching for them to buy products was to incentivize them, giving them assurance of buying authentic products directly from the manufacturer. In this case, this was Reckitt, and giving them discounts. So those are some of the things I was pitching to them that got some of them to come buy directly from the manufacturer, in this case, Reckitt. But what that did for us within the organization, it helped to drive our AOV, our order volume, and definitely revenue by multiple X's, 5X from harnessing the potential with B2B. And I think even after I left Reckitt, the B2B e-commerce team continued to be one of the biggest revenue drivers for e-commerce. And I've seen over the years how that has evolved, especially after the pandemic. B2B e-commerce just shut up the roof. And honestly, for me, it's just good when I look back and I see a lot of people playing in that space now. I see how it was when I tried to do it in like 2015. A lot of people, like I said, even internally were wondering, why do you have to do this? Why are we even in e-commerce in the first place? But now after the pandemic, like everybody literally is trying to drive growth through e-commerce, especially for big businesses, especially through B2B. And I know what B2B can definitely do especially for CPGs. It can definitely help to drive other volume and revenue. And I think it was on your podcast I was listening on one of the episodes that I listened on. The guy speaking mentioned that even these days, like you don't carry a book catalog to customers. Everything is digitalized. E-commerce, even for B2B based companies, is a necessity in 2023 and even beyond. It's something that everybody has to get involved. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And I think if we go back, before we catch up to where you're back today with Amyris, but if we go back to your Reckitt days, there's quite a few brands, I think, that most people, especially in the US, Mexico, Canada, will have heard of most of the brands that Reckitt carries. We've got Airwick, we've got Finish, which is of course the furniture polish. We've got Harpic, we've got Lysol, Mortine, Vanish, Woolite. These are literally household names, right? Every single household probably in America, or I would say a good percentage of them, will have one or more Reckitt products under their roof. And when you first started with Reckitt, I'm guessing that Reckitt, for the most part, I wouldn't know what the percentage is, but I would guess a significant percentage is sold through grocery. So they supply directly to grocery retail, and then grocery will sell that in the grocery store. You go in, you buy your groceries, and then you buy your can of Mortine to kill the flies in the house. Or you go into your supermarket and you buy a can of Finish, right? And you go home and you dust your furniture. But I guess there's also probably convenience stores carry a lot of Reckitt product. And then I'm guessing that there's quite a few different distributors across the United States that also carry Reckitt product. For example, as a wholesale product, they carry that for things like hospitality and other businesses so some businesses that would buy off Reckitt, i.e. grocery, would then sell to end consumers. And some businesses that buy off Reckitt would consume the product internally as a product they would use in-house. And so when you started at Reckitt, I'm guessing that the vast majority of B2B customers of Reckitt, if they wanted to buy electronically, that would be via EDI, not self-service e-commerce. So when you got to Reckitt, was there no self-service B2B e-commerce at all in the business when you arrived?
Yeah. When I arrived, it was not B2B e-commerce, period. Self-service, there was none like that. One of the things that we had to do early on was to first that relationship and even let people know that now you can come buy these products online. It was at that time, it was a lot of awareness. And then you're also spot on. Our customers really were either resellers or people in the hospitality industry that consume the products, or, for instance, facility management companies as well that use products in their facilities. So those were majorly like my go-to customers for e-commerce B2B at my time at Reckitt. There was really no e-commerce B2B at the time. When I joined, Reckitt was playing maybe also a few online marketplaces at that time, but there was nothing for B2B. The B2B team at that time would go through traditional route, go to the distributor, get the products, things like that. But when I started, one of the things that I started to do is to encourage B2B players, institutions, companies, come get those products online. Because the funny thing is, some of them were actually buying some of those products online in small bits from whoever that was selling it on whatever online marketplace. So we had to repurpose some of those relationships because some of those resellers, I didn't know them really. So if you're buying a product from that you would use for your organization, you want to be sure of the authenticity of the product and also get real value, real discount, and even build relationship with the manufacturer or in some cases the wholesalers of this brand. So those were the opportunities that I sincerely found in the market at that time. I know right now it's a lot bigger.
Of course. And how did the business react when because Reckitt it's a $1 billion business.
Yeah.
It's a huge company. So first of all, what was their reaction when you proposed to the business, we're going to do B2B e-commerce, we're going to set up this functionality and we're going to sell direct to B2B customers at scale. And we're going to effectively do an end run around some of the distributors that are out there in the market selling our product, both through their own websites, marketplaces, etc. We need to claw back some of the power of our brand, and we need to own our brand in the marketplace. And instead of, because your product's going to find its way to market one way or another. If it's a good product, it's going to find its way to market. But you want to own as many of those routes to market as you can, so that you capture the margin instead of somebody else capturing the margin, right? That's the idea. And you also help to protect the brand. You also help to support the pricing structures and RRPs and all those pricing models that are in market and in region. And so first of all, how did they respond to the idea that you wanted to set up B2B e-commerce in the business? And then secondarily, from an operational perspective, it's a totally different proposition when you're selling maybe a carton of product to a B2B customer versus selling pallets and containers to a distributor. It's a totally different operational model. And so obviously from a logistics perspective, from a pick, pack, dispatch perspective, everything changes when you are starting to forge direct routes to market outside of that traditional distribution channel. And what did they think when you proposed this idea? And two, how difficult was it to start to restructure the business to be able to support B2B self-service e-commerce?
As you ask these questions, I'm reflecting and getting a little bit emotional as I reflect on some of the work that we had to do back in the day to get some of these things on the ground. So the first question is, how was the reception when I was like, let's do this? So the support for senior leadership was awesome. I would say Reckitt is a global company. So some of the things that I was trying to do at that time was already being experimented in China, in India. There was at the highest level, there was some insight to what the potential could be. And even though at the time you might not be necessarily making a profit, there's a path to profit in the future and things like that. From a lot of research, you could see that there's a part there. So at the highest level within the organization, I would say there was support from my general managers, Faraz, some of the people that I worked with at the highest level. There was support. You tend to now get the not so supportive folks at the lower end who are doing most of the operation, because a lot of people and that you wouldn't necessarily blame them because they are not privy to insights, information, data, things like that. There were a lot of questions about why are we investing in an unprofitable segment of the organization? Why do I need supply chain, for instance, to ship a particular product to a particular customer in a particular way? Why do we have to make these adjustments for e-commerce? Those were some of the questions or the pushback that I had to manage as we got this off the ground. But like I said, and I feel this is also the most important part, we got support. I got support from leaders at the highest level. I would say because they also first were doing some of these things in like China, in India, in some other countries, in Dubai, for instance. So we had some idea of what it's like. And I feel like when you get support at that level, that's really the major support that you need. So that was some of the things that there was pushback at the lower level, but at the highest level, it was actually a strategic move for the company at that time, which I think they are actually reaping the benefits globally from that currently.
And what did the rollout of, because you need new technology, usually need an e-com platform. Obviously, a global player like Reckitt already has things like an ERP in place. They have a WMS in place. They've got some of the hardcore business operational technology. They've already got that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the e-commerce piece, that's usually where the new stuff comes in, right? And so they need an e-com platform. They usually need a PIM, a product information management platform. They usually need maybe a CDP or at least a marketing automation platform. There's certain pieces, there's certain components that, these traditional B2B businesses just don't have when they launch e-commerce for the very first time. And so were you tasked with setting up something lightweight to start with as almost like a proof of concept? Or did you guys go whole hog straight out of the gate and go, nope, we're gonna boil the ocean. We're gonna do this. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna go 100%. We're gonna establish a new e-com platform. We're gonna do PIM. We're gonna do full end-to-end system integration. We're gonna do tap into global logistics. How did were there stepping stones, or was it a big bang project?
I'll say there were stepping stones. I remember we tried different things in different ways, but there were stepping stones. I think the first stepping stone, even globally, was venturing into partnering with online marketplaces that existed across different countries. So in the US, I know we were collaborating with Amazon at the time. In the UAE, we were collaborating with the e-commerce marketplace platform. So I think at that time, we leaned into the e-commerce marketplaces that existed within the different countries. I think that was like the first entry point. I was doing a lot of collaboration in terms of homepage banner, sale events, specific sale events for my products for the e-commerce marketplaces that I was working with. Another thing that I had to do at the time was, and we had to do this globally, was localization of our PIM. We had a big PIM that had content, product description, literally everything. We had to localize each of those content to all of the different markets that we worked on. And then at some point, there was also a time where I had to also revamp the content to search engine optimized. And then there was this other time when I think Unilever actually, it's with the hero image thing like that came out in somewhat about 2015. I think, I can't remember his name, some e-commerce guy in Unilever pioneered some hero image template, something like that we also try to use across our brands globally, localizing some of our digital assets and also tweaking some of our product images to fit that hero image display that we had was some of the new things that we experimented in. But we didn't go, I would say we didn't go full blast all at once. We put our feet in the water through online marketplaces. I know some brands have their own distinct websites where they sold some of the product, but I think a lot of the revenue from that came from online marketplaces and the collaborations that existed with those online marketplaces, and also the B2B platforms that existed in those online marketplaces. Because I know I work closely with some of the B2B teams of those online marketplaces to drive high revenue, high volume for some of the brands that I worked with. So I think that was the first foray into that.
And by the time you left Reckitt, did they have their own owned e-commerce platform for B2B by the time you left, that they were selling self-service replenishment ordering could be done through their own B2B e-commerce platform by the time you left?
But by the time I left, I think there was already works. We're working on a website. I don't know what happened at the website. But I think a lot of even the B2B stuff, and I could be wrong, even currently it still happens through third-party online marketplaces, website.
Yeah. So Amazon Business and the like.
Exactly.
And I think that this really is a blueprint that a lot of B2B businesses can emulate. And it's something that I oftentimes will recommend is that if you're big, but you're not doing anything digitally at the moment at all, and you want to almost prove the business case of your B2B digital efforts, and you want to prove out some demand, especially if you're going into a new market, marketplaces are one of the easiest and smartest ways to do it, because you can effectively take the data, as long as you've got a PIM system or an ERP that has enough product data in it, then you can use any one of the many omni-channel connectors that are already out there to plumb the data either out of your ERP or out of your PIM system, because usually you need to get, even if you have a PIM system, what you usually won't pull from the PIM system is inventory and price. And so usually, even in a marketplace environment for B2B, you need to integrate with two platforms. You need to integrate with ERP, price and inventory at least.
Yeah.
And then you need to integrate with PIM for all the product data and content. And so the good omni-channel system connectors out there,
Yeah.
the ones that people have heard of are the channel advisors of the world,
Yeah.
the Feedonomics of the world, the GoData feeds of the world.
Yeah.
There's many of them. There's probably 100 popular omni-channel listing platforms out there that can also pull orders back down from the marketplaces and get them into the ERP or WMS for fulfillment. The reality is that's a pretty light lift compared to implementing a full-blown B2B e-commerce platform. It's much easier to tippy-toe your way into full B2B e-commerce success by basically selling through platforms that already have the demand.
Yeah.
They've already got the authentication. They've already got the aggregated cart model. They've already got, in many cases, especially if you're dealing with Amazon and you're using FDA, then you're using their logistics to actually fulfill your web orders. And so it feels like that's a relatively low lift in comparison to building a B2B e-commerce platform from scratch and then getting all of your B2B customers migrated into that platform, making sure that their usernames and passwords, and obviously in the B2B world, you've got organization level accounts, and then you've got the sub accounts for all the users. Then you've got the individual price lists, the individual custom catalogs, the individual brands that they can buy. It starts to get complex super fast. And so when you go to a marketplace model, at least as a first step, a lot of that complexity is taken away by the marketplace.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And I, for the longest, have recommended that as a template for, especially for big organizations, global organizations that want to even experiment with e-commerce generally. I rather than cut beyond the cost of creating the website. I tell people, when you want to start an e-commerce business, creating the website is the easiest thing. The operation of it, the marketing of it, the demand generation of it is the hardest part. And that is what online marketplaces you get ahead of. So as a global organization wanting to venture into e-commerce, you have to spend a lot. You say, for instance, you want to have your platform from ground up. You will spend a lot on marketing for a proof of concept that you're not sure if it will be profitable or not. So I believe, just based on my experience, that it is better at that level to work closely with some of the online marketplaces, even though I know currently it's different than what it was in like 2015, 2016. It's different. It's very complex these days, but it saves you a lot in like marketing spend and things like that, and just allows you start slowly, and then you can scale up and have your website when the time is right, when you've generated a lot of demand and the cost of operating on those online marketplaces begins to go up. You could now transfer some of those customers to your website. The good thing also, like you mentioned now, compared to say 2015, 2016, there are now a lot of omnichannel connectors that can literally help you with your data, connect easily to some of these platforms. So for global organizations, big organizations really wanting to venture into e-commerce and things like that, I really honestly discourage people from like just going ahead and starting your website from like ground up. In fact, if you're starting your business based on that already, that's fine. But if you're a global organization and then you just want to foray into e-commerce, I'll say experiment with working with online marketplaces. Because of your name and the brand awareness that you bring, you could negotiate for things like homepage banner, discount on certain days, things that sales events that could push your product up the feet of customers early on and get people to look at your products and buy them. But going on to start your own website from ground up, it's a lot beyond the website. Just creating your website, for me, it's like the easiest thing to do. Where it matters more is demand generation. How do you get people to come on your website to buy product? And that is also something that the Amazons of this world, marketplaces across the world, invest a lot of money on, trying to get people to come on that website. You can never match them in terms of marketing budget to get people on the website. So it's just wise, especially when the early day, to just hit with working, on online marketplace. That's what I think really.
Makes sense. Now, if we fast forward through
Yeah.
your career for the next couple of roles that you had, so you were IT business partner at Kimberly-Clark,
Yeah.
another very famous FMCG goods
Mhm.
manufacturer. People are probably very familiar with Kleenex and a lot of other brands that
Yeah.
Kimberly-Clark makes. You were with them, then you were area manager, data analyst for e-commerce at Walmart as well.
Yeah.
Another very famous retailer that also has their own marketplace, massive retail play, one of the big, always in the top 2 or 3 retailers in the entire world. And
Yeah.
then you ended up at Amyris, right?
Yeah.
And this is a totally different beast. This is not FMCG anymore. Now, Amyris, they build themselves as leading the way to a more sustainable future, the world's leading manufacturer of sustainable ingredients made with synbio or synthetic biology. And
Yeah.
so they're providing ingredients to the chemical industry, et cetera, clean chemistry. And this is an interesting beast. It's still a publicly traded company, so it's still a big beast of a company like the other companies that you've worked for, but it's not FMCG anymore. It's manufacturing of effectively raw materials for industry. So how has that differed working as a e-commerce data analyst for Amyris? How has that differed from working in the FMCG space?
How that has differed? Well, my work is actually similar in the sense that Amyris actually does have products which I support with e-commerce data analytics needs, just looking at customer interaction with some of the products that the company has under its portfolio. But how it differs with some of the companies that I've worked with, those other companies are a lot bigger, well known, and mostly leaders in the space that they are global $1 billion company that have very deep pockets to just experiment on things. I remember my time I think at that time we were initially making a loss, but the company could afford to make a loss. It's different at Record in the sense that value I bring and a lot of the other people that I bring, literally has to be spot on because no deep pockets to experiment on like different things. So it's different in the sense that it's very targeted, very tailored, and the insights that I get from the data about customers that buy our products, use our products online, get our products online, it's very different in that those customers are like niche customers that come specifically for some of those products that they have tried out, however they tried it out the first time, and then come back to buy some of those products. So that's how it differs. But in terms of similarities, still working around e-commerce based data, seeing how customers interact with product online, how promotions can help trigger repeat purchase, LP over time, things like that. So those are things that I work on currently.
And does Amyris obviously has a B2B component and they have a direct to consumer component with their in-house brands. I think it's BioEssence or something like that. Essence is one of your in-house brands. You almost have 3 strings to your bow. You've got D2C, you've got ingredients, and then you have contract manufacturing, plus you have house brands. There's multiple 3 or 4 different business lines or sources of revenue for the business. Now, does Amyris sell B2B, whether it be ingredients or contract manufacturing, whatever? Do they sell their products through their own B2B e-commerce and D2C e-commerce sites, or do they do everything today through marketplaces?
A mix of different things. So definitely sell on online marketplaces, Amazon, Walmart, everywhere. And also have dedicated websites for the brands that I work with, where I spend a lot of time just analyzing customer interaction with some of those websites and how customers can get value from the website, promotions on the website and things like that. I feel like the difference with Amyris and the portfolio of brands within Amyris, the difference from that and my other experience is that those brands started as an online focused brand. So they were like native online from inception. But for the other brands were already older global corporations that needed to transition into online. So it was like different systems, different approaches. But at Amyris, the brands were created with online first in mind. So a lot of the brands, all the brands literally started with their websites from like ground up. That was the launch of the brand. The launch of the brand was with your website. going live. But in terms of operation, in terms of demand generation and sales, we use a mix of both marketplaces, direct to customers, and even omni channels on a Walmart, offline stores, Target, Sephora, things like that.
Wow. And one of the brands that my audience is probably going to be very familiar with is you've partnered with Jonathan Van Ness, JVN, for his hair line. He's very famous. And Queer Eye the Straight Guy, I think, is the series that he's famous for. But he's just famous in the hair industry, full stop. And you've got other brands that people will have heard of course. But I guess working with some of these influencers to help develop their product lines, and then they can sit underneath the Amyris sort of brand umbrella, and you can buy the JVN product directly through the JVN website, direct to consumer. I can shop on the website today. But I'm guessing that also if I'm a let's say I'm a salon, or let's say I'm a retailer or something like that, and I want to buy JVN products wholesale, then I can come to you and I can establish a wholesale account with you as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. The brand itself is one of those brands that I actually work closely with. I help them with all of their online data analytics needs. So super excited about that brand. And you mentioned a little bit about influencers. I have seen brands that had influencers behind the brand that fail. Because you have an influencer behind the brand doesn't really guarantee success. But I'll tell you for free, one of the things that I love about Jonathan Van Ness is his attachment to the brand. He's passionate about the JVN brand. The hair is, a lot of the brands at Amyris are connected with some celebrity. I could tell you for free, Jonathan Van Ness is one of those celebrity type co-founders that is heavily invested even in the usage of the brand, in promoting the brand. And I think that goes a long way in brand success. I'm saying that for other brands or other companies that might want to establish some relationship with some celebrity, the fact that you are establishing a collaboration with a celebrity in itself doesn't guarantee success. It will go a long way for the celebrity or the influencer to be sold out to the brand in terms of love the brand themselves, use the brand, cannot stop talking about the brand. Those things can help drive growth for the brand. But aside that, for JVN, yes, you would have to create accounts with the brand, or we have beauty reps in big superstores like Sephora, things like that, that can help with that as well. But yes, on the website, you can also place an order for your B2B brand, like salons and other things.
Right. So you've got wholesale e-commerce and direct to consumer e-commerce underneath each of those brands, which makes total sense. Listen, Emeka, this has been a fantastic conversation. Nearly an hour has absolutely flown by. When we think about, there's a lot of brands today that maybe aren't household names. They aren't CPG brands. They aren't in supermarkets. They aren't in your Walmarts. They aren't in the Amazons of the world yet. And if you're a let's say you're a B2B manufacturer of a product, maybe it's in the industrial space, could be in any space. But if you don't do any e-commerce today, and that's most of the B2B brands out there today, the lion's share of B2B brands out there do not do e-commerce today. The stats show that. And you want to dip your toes in the water of e-commerce. And let's say you are sub $50 million. You're doing less than $50 million a year in GMV today. So you're still a pretty small brand in the grand scheme of things as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
What would be your top, say, one or two pieces of advice for these brands that realize they know, okay, I'm a manufacturer, or I'm a wholesaler, or I'm a distributor, and I got to get with the program when it comes to e-commerce? What are some of the very first steps I need to be thinking about or taking to help ensure my success as I strike out on this e-commerce journey?
So the first thing would be to get on the program like yesterday. That's the first thing. There's no reason why you should delay, because the data is there, and just everything around us in 2023 tells us that everything is digital. The reason why you have to get on the program immediately is being online help you with gathering customer information, gathering a ton of data, not just customer information, a ton of data that could help you track, make predictions about your product or what you're selling. So you're losing out on that, not being able to use the e-commerce platforms to harness the data potential that is there. So you're missing out on a huge part of some data gathering, data generation that you could be doing on. So I'll say just get on the program like yesterday. The steps I would encourage, and it depends on the type of business. For a CPG in 2023, not so big, I would definitely encourage you get on online marketplaces. But even as you get on the online marketplace, start to think of your own direct to customer website. You could already start it as a matter of fact, but also harness the potentials with online marketplaces. So for CPG companies, I would say actually start your website, but leverage online marketplaces. The only reason, or the reason why I say that, is because with demand generation, the online marketplaces can help you have a lot of people experience your product or see your products for the first time than your website would. And in terms of nationwide coverage, supply chain stuff like that, that could help you cover that. But for other companies that don't sell, that don't deal in fast moving consumer goods, maybe heavy item services, things like that, I would encourage you to have a web portfolio of the products that you have or the services that you render somewhere where people can see your product online. Whatever that looks like, but somewhere where people can see your product online. The next step to it would be to develop your digital assets, your product description, your pictures, videos, developing that, building a portfolio for your digital assets. That would go a long way in helping you have a standardized way of describing your product or showcasing your products to the world. When you sell products online, you can't just use any type of picture or any inaccurate description or inconsistent description in describing your product. So having your PIN, setting that up, and I want to say you can go all out with your PIN. You can, whatever solution that is cost effective for you to aggregate all your digital assets, I would say leverage that. Another thing also, we mentioned leveraging omnichannels connection. There are a lot of them out there, right? Yeah, currently. The one that works well for your business, just literally Google and find one that works well for your business that could help you connect your product information from whatever system that it is in currently from your offline operations. You could connect that to so many, maybe not just even one, so many other online marketplaces and maybe your website as well. That can help you have a head start and also move quickly. I think those are the sorts of points that are coming to mind right now.
Makes absolute sense. Thank you so much for that advice. And the great thing is that if you're a manufacturer, wholesaler, distributor, you can usually sell both D2C and B2B on the same market. So you will see the same brands, for example, that sell on Amazon. They'll sell individual units, and that's obviously targeted at selling direct to the end consumer. And then they'll sell cartons, pallets, and containers worth of product to the B2B customer. And so there's these sort of volume breaks that are automatically built in to selling very large quantities targeted at the B2B customer on platforms like Amazon or Fair or these other platforms. You can sell the exact same product. It's just the volume price breaks that you build in will self-select towards a D2C consumer or a B2B buyer. And so there's easy ways to differentiate your product for your D2C consumer versus your B2B consumer of your product. And look, I think that's fantastic advice. It's something that I recommend most of my clients do, and it can work very well to kill multiple birds with one very elegant stone. So thank you very much. Now, we're at the point of the conversation where I get to turn the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal, it can be professional. Emeka, what is your question for me today?
My question for you is, what do you like the most about having these conversations?
Look, I think the thing for me is that without a podcast, and I think I've probably mentioned this multiple times before, but I think the key for me is that having a podcast opens up the opportunity to have dialogue that there's no other way to have these kind of conversations. And if you, for example, if I was to just message you on LinkedIn, for example, and say, hey, Emeka, can we just tee up a virtual coffee? Can you book something in my Calendly? Can we spend 15 minutes shooting the breeze about e-commerce, right? You might say yes, but more often than not, if you're busy, you're going to probably say no. And also, without a podcast, I don't have a track record of content that I can point someone to. And now that I've got a podcast, I got 270 plus episodes. When people say, what's your podcast about? What's your podcast like? What is your style like? What kind of questions do you ask? I can easily now say, here's the link to the podcast. Here's some recommended episodes. Go and check these out. And you can see for yourself how I roll. And you can decide for yourself if you think I'm a good fit to have a conversation with. And so it opens doors to having conversations with oftentimes very senior people, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, CIOs, CDOs, e-commerce analysts like yourself. It opens up an opportunity for me to have very senior level conversations with super strong subject matter experts, even to the founder level. And those conversations are very hard to come by when these people are normally super busy. Their time is their most valuable asset. It's their most valuable commodity. Mm-hmm. And if you just hit them up in their DMs, you slide into their DMs, and you try to steal a bit of their time, 9 times out of 10, they will assume you're trying to sell them something. You're trying to sell them a service. You're trying to sell them, I don't know, maybe they think you're an agency, or they think that you're going to try to sell them some products or whatever it is. And they immediately, the barriers go up. But when you tell somebody straight out of the gate, hey, I've got a podcast. Here's the link. I've got over 270 episodes published. I would love to speak to you about X, Y, and Z. The chances of getting a yes go up exponentially. And so it allows me to have very senior level conversations with very smart people where they would normally turn me down if I just said, let's get a virtual coffee. And it also, I think, my goal with the podcast, and where I think that for me, this works so well, is it's elevating information from these people that wouldn't normally have a platform to talk about those things unless they are actively out there trying to appear on podcasts. Oftentimes that amazing information they've got in their head, okay, maybe they internalize it in their business with their teams, but it never gets shared with the world. And a lot of this stuff is super valuable. And so I'm trying to create a platform where this information can get shared with the world. That's really the goal. Now, of course, a byproduct of that is hopefully it shows a little bit of expertise of mine. And hey, if someone comes along and they're thinking about and considering working with me, then at least they can see in advance what type of person I am. They can get a feel for the type of experience I have. Mm-hmm. And they never even have to contact me first. They don't even have to have a phone call with me. They can start getting a feel for the type of character I am, and they can start getting a feel for whether they even think I would be a good fit before they even reach out to me. So that's another benefit of having a podcast too.
That's great. That's good. I commend your work. I think you're doing great work in just putting together this body of knowledge from all of the podcasts that you have put out. Anybody that is looking to get into e-commerce, B2B, or just learn a thing or two, a CEO, B2B manager that is trying to get something can definitely check through your podcast and definitely get 1 or 2 insights from it that could be valuable for their business. Well done. Thank you also for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's been a joy talking to you. The time went by real fast.
Oh, I totally agree. Now, I know you've got to jump, but just real quick, how would you prefer people get a hold of you if they want to have a chat to you? Obviously, you're going to be at B2B Online Florida, so people can catch up with you there. Do you like people to reach out to you on LinkedIn or email you? How do you prefer people get a hold of you if they want to have a chat to you?
Yeah, so I'll be in Florida from the 15th. I think there are events in the evening of that day. So I'll be in some of those events, and I'll be there on Monday and Tuesdays. You can catch up with me in Florida. But aside that, you can also catch up with me on LinkedIn. My name is Emeka Nwosu. I think there are a few Emeka, but if you search me, you'll find me. And also on Instagram, I am Mex Nwosu, MEXNWOSU. On LinkedIn is Emeka EMEKA NWOSU on LinkedIn.
Great. I'll put all of your links in the show notes so that people can find your LinkedIn profile, etc. Thank you very much, Mika. I really appreciate the conversation. I can't wait to catch up with you in Florida. Thanks so much. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.